So last couple of weeks, we've been talking about being stronger in lots of ways. And we've talked about stronger character. We looked at the story of Joseph, and we saw some things that we need to run away from and some things that we need to embrace, like forgiveness. And we talked about stronger faith, and that faith isn't based on the things that we as humans always think faith is based on. It's not based on answered prayer and God's action. Faith is something that we can have. Strong faith is something we can have, regardless of those things. And last week, Paul talked about the strongest love ever, God's love for us, in manifest in Jesus Christ, who was sacrificed, who became our sin. And that because God loved us that way, we also should go and have that strong love for everybody else. And all of these things, they're not just little compartments, stronger character and stronger faith and stronger love. They're part of the whole of being stronger Christians, stronger disciples. And this week we're going to talk about something that is almost synonymous with the word Christian, because whenever we talk about being a Christian, we also talk about service or being a Christian servant. And it's funny, this idea of service or doing good things, because it's not really just limited to we people who claim to be followers of Jesus. I don't think anyone, I think universally, probably, across the board, if you go to someone and say, do you think doing good things is a good thing? Nobody would say, nope. I don't want to do good things. I mean, we see this all the time. People, millionaires, athletes, politicians, actors, actresses, they're always doing charitable things. They're doing good things for people across the board. People think doing good things is a good thing. And for us, followers, disciples, being stronger servants is one of the ways we become stronger disciples, along with character and faith and love. Being a strong servant is important for us. And across the board, we can agree with people on both sides of the fence about that. I had this friend, and actually these days it's more of a Facebook friend, but it's actually somebody I know. I mean, a lot of our Facebook friends are just people we meet on Facebook, so you don't really know them. But this person used to live behind me growing up for a while, and I'm going to try not to reveal too much identifying information about said person, because they are actually active on my Facebook wall, and we wouldn't want to pull somebody out. But this person, from all I can see, from her Facebook persona, likes to do good things for people. She talks about it all the time, how she'll bake goodies and send them to people, and she'll go and take care of pets and animals, and all these nice things that she does. It appears on the surface that she really enjoys doing good things. In fact, she even she called up one of the assisted living centers in her area where she lives, and found out that there's a gentleman there that doesn't get visited very often, doesn't have any family, nobody comes to see him. So once in a while, she goes and takes baskets and goodies and blankets and games and sits with him for a while and does that. And it appears that she really enjoys doing good things. You would think, if you just saw her from the outside, that she probably would be a follower of Jesus, but I don't believe she is. And it just goes to prove that across the board, it really doesn't matter. We don't have to be Christian to do good things. But, if we are Christians, if we are followers of Jesus, if we are disciples, then servanthood is one of the ways we get stronger, if we do it right. Now, here's the problem with my Facebook friend. You see, she does quite often post about all the nice things she does, and then follows it up with things like, I'm kind of awesome like that. Aren't you glad I sent all that good stuff to you? I've never done something so great. These are actual words from actual posts. I didn't make this up. The funnier thing is, and I say it appears that she enjoys doing good things, is that there was this post on her timeline and a rant, we all know what a Facebook rant is, about how workers came to her house in the heat, sweating, to put up a carport, and had the nerve to ask her for a glass of water. True story. They had the nerve to ask her for a glass of water. The point here is that if we're going to use service, if we're going to use servanthood as a way to make us stronger disciples, then we really have to kind of step back and examine a couple of things about our service. We have to look at how we serve, we have to look at why we serve, and we have to look at who we serve. How we serve, why we serve, and who we serve. And it's kind of funny because when we start talking about how we serve, there is a group of people who do good things and believe that in order for anything to be really good, it also must be really big, huge, grandiose. And there's one of those people standing in front of you right now. I don't know what it is. I just believe. I don't think that bigger is necessarily better. I just believe if I'm going to do something, I do it big, which also translates to if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. It's a fault. I admit it. But there are lots of people out there who believe the bigger your service project is, the more people you get involved, the more complex it is, the more moving parts there are to kind of juggle, the more meaningful it is. And wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great if how we served, if the size of our service projects actually directly related to our strength as Christian servants? I mean, wouldn't that be really cool if the day we get up to heaven, we're standing in front of Jesus, and Jesus whips out his spreadsheet with a bar chart on it, and all those bars measured the size of your service projects, and if you made it above a certain line, you were in with all the good rewards, and all the rest of the people just got, like, the economy accommodations. Wouldn't that be kind of cool if that's the way it worked? But Jesus had a different idea of service. We read this story in John's Gospel. It's called the story of the sheep and the goats, and we've actually talked about, I know that I have talked about this story in the past, maybe a year or so ago. And what Jesus is saying is that in the end, when everybody's coming to me, when it's all said and done, the people will be divided like sheep and goats. And the vision here is that the sheep are followers, people who are following after Jesus, and the goats are not. And he says to the sheep, he says, and you guys, because when I was hungry, you fed me, and when I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. And when I was a stranger in a foreign land, you brought me in and gave me a place to rest. And when I was naked, you gave me clothes. And when I was sick, you came and took care of me. And when I was in prison, you came and visited me. Because you did that, you will inherit the kingdom of heaven. And the people are like, the sheep people are like, wait a minute, Jesus, hold up here. Hold up. We never did any of that for you. In fact, we don't even know you. This is the first time we've met you. We've never done anything like that for you. And this was Jesus' reply to them. We're in John's Gospel, chapter 25, verse 40, and it says, the king will reply. So Jesus says to them, truly I tell you. And here's a little aside. Anytime Jesus says, truly I tell you, it's pretty important stuff. He's like, listen up, folks, because this is the real deal. He says, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me. I don't think, but we probably all have heard this verse many, many times. And then he goes to the other people, the goats, and he says, and you guys didn't feed me. You didn't give me anything to drink. You didn't clothe me. You didn't take care of me when I was sick. You didn't give me a place to sleep. You didn't come visit me in prison. So you guys don't get in. It's a pretty simple illustration that Jesus gives here. But what I find interesting is that he says, whatever you did. He doesn't say, you guys, the big sheep who did really big things, get in. He said, whatever you did. And the list he gives isn't really, it's not like multi-million-dollar charitable foundation kind of projects. It's a bite to eat, a drink of water, shelter. Jesus is saying it's not the size of our service that matters, but the fact that we take every opportunity we get to serve. Big, middle, little, whatever. If you have the opportunity to serve someone, to lift them up, then take it. Because anytime you do that, you're serving Jesus. And we often ignore these little things. We do. It's human nature. We see them around us all the time, but we think in the back of our minds, well, I'm too busy. Or somebody else will take care of that. Or it's not really that important to me. I think they can do without it. And Susie and I used to go back and forth about the issue of, well, we'll call them what they are, panhandlers. I mean, we all know these people. They stand on the corner with signs that say, we'll work for food, or give me something to eat, or give me something to drink, or I need money, God bless, whatever it is. And I always approach that as, well, I know they're not going to do something that I would do with the money I give them, so I choose not to give. And we debated this for years and years and years, and finally we came to the conclusion that it's not our place. It's not our place to decide what they may or may not do with anything that we do in service to them. It's our place to serve at every opportunity we can. So now we just keep a couple of bucks in the center console of our car, and if we have it, we give it. It's not our place to decide whether it's big enough, important enough. It doesn't matter. Our job, and Jesus says, whatever you can do, you do it. See, if we're going to be stronger servants, if service is going to make us stronger Christians, then we have to examine how we serve. But even if we examine and take every opportunity to serve in every way we possibly can, that's not the only thing. I mean, that's not the only thing that makes us stronger disciples. Because a lot of people have different viewpoints on service. There's a ton of ideas about what actually serving means. And the three most predominant, I think, are serving, and I say serving in the way that kind of we would think Jesus serves, helping, and fixing. These are the three things that people go to when they're talking about doing good things. We're either serving, or we're helping, or we're fixing. And we catch ourselves getting into those second two. I think that's where most people end up falling at some point when they're thinking about doing good things. We catch ourselves getting into those by using words like the needy, the less fortunate, the underprivileged, the homeless, the poor. We immediately put ourselves in those positions of helping and fixing. And the problems with helping and fixing are that we are automatically putting ourselves in a position where we're saying, you person, you world, you situation, you must need help, or you must be broken, so I will fix you. And then we put ourselves above the situation because we are the ones who have the fix. We're the ones who have the help. We come across with this mindset that we must have something or know something or hold some secret that you don't. And when we help and we fix instead of serve, we immediately put the people that are the beneficiaries of our good deeds in a state of lack, like they're somewhere below us. But service, true service, Christian servanthood, requires that we have a different outlook. We just celebrated Easter, and before Easter, Jesus had the Last Supper, pretty famous event. The day he was arrested, the day before he became sin on the cross for us. He has the Last Supper, and he finishes eating with his guys, right? They're all relaxing at the table, and then Jesus does the most unusual thing. He puts a towel over his shoulder, fills up a bowl with water, and bends down to wash the feet of his disciples. And his disciples are like, what are you doing, Jesus? And then one of them actually had the nerve to say, well, if you're going to wash my feet, why don't you wash my whole body while you're at it? And Jesus says, well, your whole body's clean. And his idea is that we bend down to serve people. And they didn't really understand what was going on. And Jesus said this. He said, I've set you an example that you should do as I have done. Pretty simple so far. Serve people like I serve people. And very truly I tell you, there it is, listen up. No servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. And now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. On the surface, it's pretty simple. Jesus serves we should serve. But then he throws this whole kind of middle thing in there, like no servant is greater than his master and no messenger is greater than the one who sent him. Okay, thank you, Captain Obvious. But what Jesus is saying is, I'm going to put this in the Chris translation. He's like, you call me rabbi, you call me Lord, and I am willing to bend down and serve. How dare you think that you shouldn't do the same things? How dare you think that you shouldn't put other people in your life above you in service? See, serving, that makes us stronger. It's not about helping or fixing. It's about elevating people above us. And you know why we elevate people above us? Because God loved them so much that he sent Jesus to die for them, just the same as he did for everybody here. Service elevates people above us. And that's what Jesus was saying. Just because I'm the master, I'm your rabbi, doesn't mean I'm doing something special. I'm doing what you guys need to do, and that is become the servant. He said that. I didn't come to be served. I came to serve. The key is to see others as God sees them and elevate them above us. We're not helping. We're not fixing. If we really want to be stronger servants, then we have to look at why we serve. Anybody ever play team sports? Anybody ever do that? I played team sports 3 years. I don't know that they were in a row. 1 year I played t-ball. 1 year I played Little League. And 1 year I played soccer. And I was terrible at all of them. My father was the umpire when I played Little League, and even I couldn't even get a walk with my father being the umpire. I mean, that's how bad I was. It's a good thing I learned how to play music because I would have nothing. I mean, seriously. And now that's kind of funny, but there's this kind of axiom in sports. We've all heard it. There's no I in team. There is no I in team. And really what that means is that whatever happens, good or bad, in that scenario, in the game, in the season, it's about the team, not about one person. Now, it's interesting when we get into service that a lot of us go ahead. I can't say you can't put the I in service because there's actually an I in service. We put the me in service, all right? We put the me in service. My Facebook friend was as much about helping people. I believe she does like to help people, but just as much as she liked to do that, she liked to get all the credit for it. It's bizarre. She liked to get all the credit for it, but service is not about us. Service is an act of worship to God. If we're going to serve like Jesus served, then our goal is to glorify God, lift him up in our service. And when we lift him up, then we lift the people up that we're serving as well. We're to reflect God's love to the world in service. Paul, when he was writing to the Colossians, he said this, whatever you do, again, whatever, it doesn't matter whether it's big, small, or in the middle. Whether it's words or good deeds, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to the Father through him. When we put Jesus Christ, when we put Jesus in his rightful place, as the Lord of our life, out in front of everything we do, when we do that, then his lordship and our worship to him is manifested in the way we serve the world around us. We have a choice. When we serve, we have a choice of who we serve. Now, you might think that part of that equation is the person who's actually getting the good stuff, but it's really not. You see, we can choose to put the me in service and serve ourselves, and that's really what we're doing. When we take the credit and the glory, we're serving ourselves. Or we can choose to serve God. Paul said in another letter to the Galatians, he said, serve one another humbly in love. And that's pretty key. We read all the time in the New Testament how humility and service go together. And think about the example we had that Jesus took on the form of a servant for us. To glorify God, Jesus' whole purpose in what he did was to glorify the grace and mercy and the love of God the Father in heaven. It wasn't about him, because who would want to go through that to save anyone? It was about God. He's worshiping God. When we serve in this spirit of humility, in just simplicity, it's a true act of worship. And I get it. I get it. We all like the spotlight. We do. It's human nature. And I'm not saying that we should hide our service, because we're commanded to let our light shine. Jesus says that. I would never put a light on a lampstand and put a basket over it. I would never do that. The world needs to see what we do. But it's not about us. It's about putting the focus on God. If we want to serve and be stronger servants, then we have to look at who we serve. Three of the words in my life that get me in the most trouble, the times I have been in the most argumentative states, especially with the other half of my marriage, are always preceded by these three words. The problem is, if you've talked to me, and I see certain people right in front of me nodding their heads in agreement, if you've ever talked to me, you know that is kind of my go-to response when I'm ever confronted. And it usually happens like this. Some person, whether it's my wife or somebody else, will go through this situation that may or may not need service to be involved. I'll listen, and then I will go, well, you know, the problem is, and then I will proceed to offer my fix. And my fix is always something big. It's life-changing. You see, I have this tendency to break all the rules we talk about here. I put myself above the situation because I think I can offer something really cool. I can fix the problem. I take my eyes off God, and I try to make it way bigger than it has to be, and sometimes all you need to do is say, it's okay. We have to look at who we serve, how we serve, and why we serve. And here's the thing. Here's the gotcha. We don't really have a choice to be servants. If we're following Jesus and we're living by his word, then we don't have a choice. Paul says this in his letter to the Ephesians. He said, we, us, here and 2,000 years ago, just the same, we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared beforehand, in advance, for us to do. It's why we were created. We say this all the time, that God's plan of redemption includes us on the ground, getting out and serving other people. And God's going to put you in situations. He's going to put you in places, in front of people, in front of things that require us to elevate them and lift them up and serve the way Jesus served. Now, we can just coast along. We can pick the low-hanging fruit. Just take those times when we can help people or fix people. Or we can serve like Jesus served. We can limit ourselves to helping, where we say, you're lacking something, so let me help you. Or we can serve like Jesus served. We can say, we'll fix your problem. The problem is, we can approach life that way, or we can serve like Jesus served. Jesus never said, the problem is, you guys are sinners, so I will fix it. He said, no, I came to serve you. And we can make ourselves the center of attention. We can make the object of our service us. And tell everybody how awesome we are when we do it. Or we can serve like Jesus served. And if we get this right, if we get servanthood right, we not only change lives and the world around us. We talked a couple of weeks ago about how if just each one of us just affected the world we live in, how much different the world would be. Yes, that will happen. But we also show Jesus to the world. One of my favorite sayings is, we all have to be witnesses for Jesus. And sometimes we should use words. Let's sink in for a minute. The way we serve, the things we do, when we take every opportunity we can, when we elevate others, when we put God in the forefront, that shows Jesus to the world. And it's simple. It's up here. Evaluate every opportunity. Elevate others. And exalt God in all the service projects that we get involved in. And service and servanthood is not, I don't want to give the wrong impression that servanthood means we always have to be doing something. Because a servant's life thinks this way whether you're out doing something or not. Doesn't mean you always have to be involved in handing out water or feeding someone, but you live like Jesus lived, always saying, I didn't come to be served, but to serve. So we can leave here today. We can leave, and we can do nothing else different. We can not change one thing. We can be happy visiting the Grace and Hope Mission once a month. Feel good, go home, pat our collective church selves on the back. We can be done with it. Or we can leave here with a different perspective. We can start noticing the world around us and the needs of this world, because they're everywhere. And it doesn't matter what it is. Remember, we said it doesn't have anything to do with the size of your service. It doesn't. There could be, an elderly person struggling to get the cart back up to the grocery store. Okay, so we take the cart up. I mean, it's that simple. All these things kind of go hand in hand. In order to see all the opportunities around us, we have to take ourselves out of the equation. And that's where elevating others comes to the forefront. Because if we're concerned about us, I need to get my groceries before the ice cream melts. If we're concerned about that, we'll miss all the other opportunities. And we always have to see things through God's eyes. Every person on this earth is valuable, loved, cherished so much by God that they can be the recipients of the same grace and mercy that we are. And we have to see people through that lens. If we want to be stronger servants, then we have to look at the world the way Jesus looked at the world. And it's not easy. It's hard. It takes work. It takes practice. And most of all, it takes Jesus. Not one of us can serve like Jesus served unless we live with Jesus in our life. Atheists read the Bible and think Jesus was a good person, but that doesn't make them servants to the world. Maybe we've forgotten that. Maybe we've forgotten that doing good things isn't about us. Maybe we've forgotten that we're not here to fix things, that we're not here to lend just a helping hand because we've got something that somebody doesn't. Maybe we've forgotten that, and we just need to take a step back and say, okay, Jesus, show me. God, I want to see the world the way you see the world. And maybe there's people in here today who just need to take that step of faith, take that leap. We can't have a servant's heart if we don't love the master servant. So what do? Do we go out of here and we change nothing? Or do we go out of here and we become stronger servants? That's the question. Let's pray. God, we know in your ultimate plan that each and every one of us is responsible for being actors in your plan of redemption. We know that we're human. We know that it is so easy for us to approach service as a way to get glory for ourselves. We don't want to be those people. We don't want to be the people that take the glory on ourselves, that talk about how awesome we are, because no service we ever do is because we're awesome. It's because you alone are awesome above all. Help us to see opportunities. Help us to get ourselves out of the way. Help us to take every little whatever that comes our way so that we can serve you. Help us to recognize people as precious, as loved, the way you see them. God, help us to be stronger servants. Help us to serve the way Jesus served. God, protect us this week. Walk with each one here. Allow these words to penetrate and soak in over the next couple of days and weeks and months, so that we just don't hear them, but we act on them, because that's what you want. For us to leave here and have something different to do in our lives. And I challenge each one before you, God, that you embolden them, empower them to step out in stronger service, to be stronger servants in this world. That's the way you designed it. And God, we pray all this in the one who makes it all possible for us, Jesus Christ. And together, as a church, we say, Amen.